I learned to be afraid. I learned to be shy, but I was committed to facing my fears.
Sheila Baker, vocal artist, Golden Crone, and creator of the Glow Method, guides women into radical self-acceptance and the full expression of their truth.
What was happening in your life when you realized the old way wasn't working?
I lived according to the rules for a long time. And I hated the box, I resented the box, and I accepted the box, and I fought against the box for decades. If you want to have peace, you have to become peace. I can still show you how to glow and how to be the soloist center stage in your life, and to take that responsibility. And that moment of feeling loved and accepting that love, that care from people who were total strangers, has shifted my perspective in ways that I love the chance to tell the story, to remind myself of that experience. So thank you for that.
Hello and welcome to Radical TV. I am Shawna Smith. Joining me here today is Sheila Baker. Hello, Sheila. How are you?
Hello, Shawna. I'm so excited.
I am too. Sheila is a lifelong creative, the OG Golden Crone, and the founder of the Soul Power Nation, and a vocal artist behind the Glow framework and Your Soul Powerful Voice. Sheila is a passionate advocate for soulful, generative living, radical self-compassion, and spiritual curiosity. She's a seasoned performance artist and vocal teacher of decades, and she now guides women into the magic of radical self-acceptance and the full embodied expression of their deepest truths. Sheila, this is so beautiful. First of all, what is the OG Golden Crone? I'm curious.
The OG Golden Crone came about in my maturing process. I've imagined myself as a mystic and kind of that wise woman on the hill for in some ways all of my life. And eventually it came to the point where my hair was no longer brunette. And in my reforming, my restructuring of my identity, I had the opportunity to either reject that or embrace it, the hair and the aging, the maturing. And I decided I was going to just embrace it. Fully embrace it. And I'm like, well, so because people would tell me that I glow, and I'm like, oh, it's the hair. And I believe it was more than that, but it was easy to say, oh, it's because I have really cool hair that I inherited from my dad, and that has its own long story. But so as I embrace that, I'm like, what about a crone? And that word has so many connotations in our culture for those who have even heard the word, right? And then I did some research into it, and it really has powerful indications in terms of being connected with spirit and being one that wears a crown. And I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm going to go with it and give this identity a new image in culture. And so I adopted it. It was my own way of supporting myself in my own path. And as I've come along, people have responded in different kinds of ways, but the people that I really respect and admire are really excited about the idea. And I love giving other women this way to think about themselves and their own aging process. And for all of us to think about the benefit, the value of wisdom and of living in our wisdom and claiming our wisdom and, glowing with our wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, this resonates so much with me. right now. I've actually just been thinking about this lately, of just owning my age and going with it instead of fighting it. So I love everything what you just said.
I identified that there's an empty spot in our culture, and the need for wisdom and our aging to not be a frightening thing, and for those of us who are there to step into that. So I'm encouraged by your sharing that,
Hmm.
because not only do we need to do that for ourselves, but in that we model it for others, and we step into this place that others need us to be in. The younger
Hmm.
generation, if we don't step into our wisdom and we keep just floundering in the performance, being in our performative selves, what do we have to actually offer? And we're not offering what they need. And that is, that's the path that I am trying to walk, and I'm stepping into being that guide for others, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah. And stepping into that guide, you have a really powerful story, because you're a singer, and you have found a way through singing, really, I don't know how to word it, but a way to transform lives, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
uh, Singing has transformed my life. It was the it was the activity that I was involved in as a child that I always loved. It was that self-expression, and it was joyful and happy. And I can remember, as a young child, and I don't have a whole lot of memories for lots of reasons, but I can remember walking home from school and making up a song about the dandelions or the milkweeds or something, that was flying into the air. And I had a frightening experience that went along with that, which kind of dampened, that joy for me over time. But I found that even though my childhood brought me to a place where I was really shy, and I've told this story, I tell the story regularly because now I'm fully confident on stage and in front of people. But back then, as a child, I I learned to be afraid. I learned to be shy. And, I tell the story by the age of 12, which is when my parents divorced. By the age of 12, I wouldn't have asked a stranger for directions to have saved my life. That's how afraid of the world I had learned to be. But I loved singing so much, and it gave so much joy. And it was the one thing that I got kudos for, and I got consistent praise for. And so I stepped into that, and I've had to wind my way around. And I got stuck in performance issues and perfectionism and performing life for other people, but I was committed to facing my fears. And I learned how to be on stage and how to sing. And I learned how to commit myself to the music. And eventually I worked through the other things. And now I know what it's like to surrender myself to the music and to have the skills to make the story be immersive, just with the human voice. And that's the magic that I know I can and I do guide others into, overcoming the limitations, gaining the skills, because everybody has a voice. And so most of us never get any training on how to use our voice, how to use our body as an instrument. And so what we're doing works because we're alive and we have a voice, but we don't have the training to communicate nuance. And we haven't learned the freedom, we haven't learned the confidence with the skills and the thoughts, the way that we think about communicating, so that we don't add that. And a mama will talk to her kids about, don't use that tone of voice with me. But that's kind of like the extent of it. And we don't understand or have access to that palette. And that's what my passion is, just growing around this idea of helping people with vocal artistry,
Mm.
vocal voice painting.
Wow. Because when I think of a singer and you get on stage and as you were talking, to be fearful and to work through what you work through and to get on a stage in front of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people or whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it's 10 to get on that stage and to use the skills that you have gained to let that beautiful voice come out and to put that into daily practice is such a big thing.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what you're doing.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I came to. And we can go to this facet, which is I lived according to the rules for a long time. And I hated the box. I resented the box. And I accepted the box. And I fought against the box for decades. I put myself into it because that's what I was trained to do. I was conditioned to live that life like most of us.
Yes.
And along with that, I abandoned myself, not knowing that that's what I was doing. But part of my healing has been recognizing that the first abandonment was this one, and it was for survival, and many of us have now heard about that aspect of our biology. But I worked through so much, and I got myself out of relationships and situations that I had agreed to that had compromised who I was. And I healed so much and I got so much help, and I still couldn't break free. I still had the lack of self-love. I still had the what's wrong with me focus. I still was living in that until I looked at my life and I was like, okay, so we're supposed to focus on what we want more of. What in my life do I want more of? What do I do the way I want my life to be? And I was able to look at my life and I said, and I wrote a poem, and it was, what if I live the way that I sing, giving my all to creating everything? And it was this way for me to make it clear to myself, to celebrate what I do when I get on stage, and the world transforms. It just pauses for a moment. And that's not it. And it's not an ego thing. It's a surrender thing. And what if I also step into this, which is that I know that as a singer, I understand that I generate the energy that gets expressed through my voice. And I've learned that I create that energy with the thought that comes before I even take the breath. And then with the breath, I prepare the energy and my whole body, the instrument, and I put it forth into the world. And that energy, and I'm feeling it, like as I'm speaking this, I'm feeling my body start to resonate with the power of it. And so much of my life, I was separated from that power. And I look at the world around me and I know that we are separated from this awareness that we hear people say the words, but they don't connect because we've never had the experience. And by helping people connect with their voice, with their physical voice and their body as the instrument, I can help them have the experience to understand what it is to create your life. And I can show you, we can break down the barriers, the speed bumps that you've created, the beliefs that you have, that you've accepted about this is who I am. Scared little me, this is who I am. And it can be, it is right now, but it doesn't have to be. And I love that I'm understanding I don't have to teach people how to sing. People who don't want to sing, they don't want to be up on a stage, that's fine. I can still show you how to glow and how to be the soloist center stage in your life, and to take that responsibility
Mm-hmm.
and to create it. And I'm so excited to be able
Yeah.
to do this.
And that's what your unique magic method is, right? The glow method. Will you tell us about
Yes.
that?
Yes. That's part of it. And see, this is kind of where that spiritual side comes in, because so many people talk about glow. We hear about glow, do a glow up or whatever, and it's about the surface. But you see, as a singer, what I know is that I can put on the technique. I mean, I can try to sing something flawlessly and it can be beautiful, but it becomes powerful when it's connected to my inner being. And when I don't have obstacles in the way, and when I can execute, but I can execute not from my brain, not from my throat, but from my soul, from my being. And so even when I went to glow, because after all, Golden Crone and you glow, and that feedback that I got from the world around me, and I'm like, cool. I love that people can connect with that word, but what does it mean? What does it mean to me? Because when I get on stage and I'm in that state and I'm surrendering, I'm committed to giving everything that I have to that moment of creative force. And that I've learned is generous. And a friend taught me of his definition of generosity, and how it's not charity. Generosity is about connecting. It's about making connections where energy can flow and generate life, vitality. So that's what the G is for glow. It's about generative generosity. It's about me taking responsibility for how I show up. And I want to glow for people around me. I want to bring my energy into the world and let it flow. Let's go in order. G for generosity, for generative generosity. And L is incorruptible love. Because part of my story was that I didn't have a clue. I came to realize I had no clue what love was. I had grown up codependent. I had grown up as the oldest of grandchild of the generation. I had parents who were unintentionally neglectful because of their own upbringing and their own being, but they weren't there in the way that a child needs them to be there. And all of that led to so many things. You add that to just who my soul is, and this was the path that I lived. I didn't know what love was, and I didn't realize that I didn't know what love was. I thought love was high levels of emotion and everything. And now I realize that's a dysregulated nervous system. That's not love. But that was what I had understood. And so in my journey, because 2021 was the year that I had a near-death experience, not medically indicated, but my experience, I had double pneumonia, come to find out, and I was running a fever, and I had the choice to live or die, to take another breath or not, and I chose to continue to fight to breathe and to live. And the rest of that year I spent committed to my self-love journey. And in that self-love journey of crying out, because having lived decades as a Christian and crying out to God, explain this, help me. And I don't even understand what love is anymore, because I came to understand the path that I had been living. And I looked at what we in American culture know as love, as the highest form of love, which is unconditional love. And I'm like, yeah, but the way humans deal with unconditional love isn't real. It's still not unconditional. Because saying that it's unconditional, I mean, maybe in some circumstances it really literally is, but to me, the way I perceive the idea of unconditional love is that there's some judgment going on there, that you need my love to be unconditional because you're not worthy of it. So there's this subtlety, this subtle undermining that happens. And I'm all about words. I love words. If you can't tell, I love words. But the word incorruptible came to me. Incorruptible love. That's
Mm.
what I believe that we're talking about, what we want to be talking about when we talk about unconditional love, but it's not an accurate word. What we mean is love that is incorruptible. It exists no matter what the circumstances are. And the circumstances may not resonate with the acceptance and the see, because I had that experience while I was in my near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
I had that experience of understanding that no matter what, no, whatever I choose, whether I choose to breathe or not breathe, whatever is equal, because it's about the experience, and I am loved. I am love, and life is love. And see, it's from that point that I'm moving forward. I'm now living out what is incorruptible love. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had to change everything. I've had to just restructure my understanding of myself and of life and of religion and so many things. So that's the L. And I'm giving it all right here. I'm so it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's so valuable
Mm-hmm.
if we can grasp these things. And having the idea of it is a start, and then we have to live it out.
Mm-hmm.
Open-heartedness is about removing the baggage, addressing the wounds, and dressing the wounds, caring for the wounds, and healing them, allowing them to become integrated into who we are instead of rejected and separated. And open-heartedness not only means giving, but it also means receiving. And so many of us struggle with receiving because of all of the other junk. So
Mm-hmm.
open-heartedness to give and receive, and wonder, to
Mm-hmm.
live in childlike wonder, to see the beauty of life around us, even when there's a part of us that says, I wish it was different. But imagine if we can get to where our focus is on wonder, and how that changes our perspective, and it changes our energy, and it makes all the rest of it easier. And I've judged myself so hard, so much of my life. And I've judged others, and I've judged my life and my way of being because it wasn't good enough. It wasn't what I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned that it was all love, and to hold that and to celebrate in wonder, which is that childlike state. And all of a sudden life is shifting. I'm ready for it to shift a little bit quicker, you know, but I had to do the foundational changing,
Yeah.
because I also believe in manifestation, and that's a whole nother thing. I mean, and that concept was like kind of forbidden for me until recent times. And now I have my own thing, but we'll have another interview when it's time to talk about the laws of entrainment. Okay.
Sheila, what would you say is the biggest myth that your target audience has been told that you've discovered is completely false?
I want to talk about the voice, because I feel that that's the entry point. So there is that, because so many of us haven't been taught anything about how to use our voice effectively, and the subtle things that we're communicating without even knowing it. and how to breathe and all those practical things. The idea that we can think our way into the solution that we want. That if we can just create the right path, if we will just find the right solution, if we will just fix this or fix that, or, that there's something wrong, first of all, because my version of God would say there's nothing wrong. It's about the experience. And I recognize that you would like to have a different experience, but we can't fix ourselves into that experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the golden crone concept was for me. That's what the glow concept was for me. That's what if I live the way that I sing? It was about me changing my perspective, shifting from what's wrong to what's right, and embracing that and amplifying it. And interestingly, that's one of the things that it's a strategy that I use in teaching singing. You're having trouble with this thing. Okay, well, what's the thing that's working the closest to what we want? That then becomes our starting point. We make everything else work that well, and that frees us up to make improvements. And then we do the same strategy, just what's working best. Focus on that and amplify it. And that's what the glow method is about.
What was happening in your life when you realized the old way wasn't working?
I can tell you about the story of when I found myself very unhappily married in a religious institution that I was not healthy for me to be in. And I found myself on the bathroom floor with snot and grossness, and hearing the voice, which was not a common. I had never had a sense of physically hearing a voice before, but it was, if you want to have peace, you have to become peace. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, it's supposed to come to me from outside of me. What? So there was that. And there was in that same week, another time where I heard, if you don't like the results you're getting, change your definition of normal. And I was like, okay, again, responsibility. So there are those. And that got me to where I was having this experience of the work that I've been doing, because I was applying those messages and I was making changes, and my manifested life, my relationships and my world hadn't changed much. Then my husband got forced to resign from a second situation and couldn't find another position, and he moved 2,000 miles away. And I was then living single, and I was just able to focus on myself, but it still wasn't coming through. And that's when I was like, okay, all of this isn't enough. Then what is it? What is the root? And when I almost died from COVID, that revelation, that experience that I had of choosing to live and being in the presence of everything. That was,
Wow.
yeah.
You spoke about it a little bit, but what did that moment feel like in your body?
Well, in that moment, I wasn't connected to my body. I mean, that was kind of the whole experience was. And in that, for the first time in my life, not only did I have an absolute acceptance of myself exactly as I was, and I had zero pressure to perform in any kind of way. And so it's like a lightness. There's in non-being is a being which is undescribable. And with that came an experience of unattachment. I think we hear about that in certain circles, the idea of not being attached to the outcome or even the
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm.
And there's a freedom that comes from that unattachment, that everything becomes a choice. And there's a power that's available in that. So that's how that felt in my body. And then I came back to my body and then I was like, okay, now I have to work to breathe. Let's just focus. And
Wow.
that part was hard. But the living,
Well,
the being, Shawna, the being alive, the acknowledgement, because see, up until that point, I had held so much judgment all the time towards myself for my imperfections, for my wounds, for my failures, and other people, and everything had to experience judgment. And it was judgment, though it wasn't discernment, and they are different. But I remember being in the hospital a few days later, because this was during Snowmageddon down in the South in 2021, and the whole world had shut down, and I had COVID brain, and I didn't realize what was going on. And I was living alone, and so and that was a whole thing, because I wasn't sure if my insurance would cover me going to the hospital to get help, and so I struggled with, what is my life worth? And then I realized I was struggling with, is my life worth this? And I said, I am worth this. And I finally
mm,
made it to the hospital, learned that I had double pneumonia. They kept me for like 2 days. And, but the first night, and it took like all day, it took all day to get checked in to a room. And so it was after dinner hours, but they brought me dinner, and they brought me a hamburger with onions and mushrooms. It was like a Swiss cheeseburger, and some of this and some of that. And I'm like, and it was, on any other day of my life, I would have sent it back. But I
mm,
cannot tell you how much through that experience of that day, I understood, I received, I accepted the love that was being offered to me. Was being, that burger, the process that brought the bun and the beef and the onions and the mushrooms, and the fact that it was lukewarm at best, but somebody had stayed after work to bring that, and somebody had done this, and somebody, so that I could
mm,
have that nourishment in
yeah,
that moment. And I had people caring for my needs, and I couldn't do anything for myself then anyway. And I had the opportunity to just receive, and I decided to embrace it. And that moment of feeling loved and accepting that love, that care from people who were total strangers. The person who cooked
mhm,
my food will never meet me. All of the things that were provided for me has shifted my perspective in ways that I love the chance to tell the story, to remind myself
mm.
of that experience. So thank you for that.
Oh, that is a beautiful story. It's so beautiful. When did you realize that your personal transformation needed to become your mission to help others?
I have always had a sense that I am supposed to help others. I've spent actually a lot of my life in front of others. I've been I've been a worship leader. I've been a leader. I've been a ministry leader. So I've done that. It's been a part of my identity, and it wasn't intentional, but I know that it was from ego, and not like bad ego the way we think about it often. I've actually I have some training that I'm doing about the way I understand ego, but like my social ego. because we all want to fit in. We all want to belong somewhere. That's a part of this human experience. And so I was being myself within the structure, within the box that I agreed to be in.
Mhm.
I was being the best version of myself available to me in the box. Um, and then I realized that I didn't have to live inside the box,
Mm.
and that the box was limiting not only me, but what I could be and what I could give and offer and experience. And so I had to tear down all of that identity. It's part of my self-love journey. And now it's a matter of glowing. Now it's just a matter of me taking responsibility to live the way that I sing, and to be that, and to do that, and to offer that, and to live my life offering who I am, to be a vessel to surrender to what wants to come through me. And I still don't do it as smoothly and as easily as I would like to, because my brain still gets involved, and I still, and then there's still systems and strategies and whatever, but
Mhm.
it's like, but I can live the way that I sing, and I get to trust that as I do that, other people are going to be impacted, and I do want to make a difference in the world. At the age of 28, someone asked me, and I don't know that anybody had asked me before, what do you want to do with your life? Or what do you want to be? And it was like nobody had asked me before. Or maybe nobody with that heart had asked me. And I said, I want to have as much influence on as many lives as possible.
Mm.
I didn't know that's what I wanted. It just
Mm.
came out of me in that
Wow.
moment. And that's what I've been trying to do all of my life. And I've been fighting, and I've been arguing with myself and with life, because I couldn't figure out how to do it, because I was trying to do it in performance mode.
Uh,
And now, finally, I've done the work, and I've gone through the steps, and I've created soul power, soul powerful. What is all of that? To focus on the soul instead of the performance. And I've put words to things. That's the thing,
mm.
Shawna, is I've put words to things, so that now, instead of being just energy, they have shape and form. And now I
Mhm.
can share them with other people.
Mhm.
And I'm just excited
Yeah.
to have
I can
words to
feel it
share.
from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who specifically do you feel called to serve?
Open-minded people, first of all. Open-hearted people, or people who want to shift their identity, who want better tools. Specifically, I'm developing programs for millennials, for spiritually minded millennial leaders, or those who want to step into that space. I feel that the generation is asking for support, and they're open to that. They need support, and they want to create a different world than the one that they are inheriting. God help us all. And we seem to have a lot in common in that. There's a lot within my own generation. Um, and I need to give us more credit, because I'm also learning that not everybody grew up in the same exact box that I did. And there are a lot more open minded people, maybe, than I've given credit for. But people who are ready to find their voice, and who recognize the value of having someone walk alongside them.
Mhm.
They're tired of doing it alone. So many of us have lived our lives that way. And what I've learned is, even though I was shy, and I've lived most of my life like self-isolated, like unintentionally, but because of whatever, but community building, people who want to be intentional about making connections with the world, because that's the only way that we're going to move forward in a life-giving, vital way. We have
Mhm.
to change our way of thinking and our way of being, and be generative.
And when someone goes through your complete method, what kind of transformation can they expect?
The goal is to find your voice, to reduce the noise, amplify the signal, and find that glow, and what your main juice comes from. And then the freedom and the skills to express that in the world, the confidence to be able to stand fully in your own energy and create like this. I'm feeling it start to feel the magnetism grow within yourself, and like to live from that state of being where you're no longer a victim. There is none of that. And it doesn't mean, by the way, it's not spiritual bypassing. It's like even the things that are uncomfortable become the energy source. It's like, because it's all love. It's all beautiful when we have that perspective. And trust me, I hope I've shared enough of my story that you understand that this person that you see in front of you has always been there and been available, but this is not how I have lived most of my life. I have lived my life depressed and anxious and anger. I mean, some of the rage that I had to express, I had to face. There were things about myself that I had to face that were hard. And now I can be aware of that, but I'm no longer attached to it. It's not part of my identity. It's part of my experience. And I don't focus on it. And now I'm living so free and excited about what's coming. And that joy and hope and excitement, anticipation. Imagine if we can get ourselves back into a state of anticipation whenever we want to. That.
Can you share a story of a client that you've worked with that exemplifies the transformation?
Well, I can share a couple micro stories. I'd like to share a story of a young lady who I worked with recently who is still in her transformation. And her story is that she's a millennial, young millennial, and she had been having a podcast for well over a year. She was doing public speaking. She's being in this very much on a growth path in terms of her own influence and her following, etc. And she had a situation come up with her thyroid, and it required, I'm pretty sure, the removal of the thyroid, but it damaged her vocal cords to the extent that she was unable to phonate. So she lost her voice. See, the thing about the voice is that the voice is how we communicate ourselves into the world. It's that projection of our identity into the world, and which is part of what makes it so vulnerable. That's part of why so many people don't get training for their voice, is because it's really personal, and it's part of that whole being on stage, et cetera, et cetera. So she lost that. She lost her voice literally because she had like part of one vocal fold completely removed. That was a year ago. And she's been in physical therapy, and she's been seeing the specialists, and she'd made so much progress. But then she came to me, and we were focused not on the glow method, but they're so connected. We just focused on the physical voice, and we focused on breathing and on identifying the compensatory behaviors she had taken up, the things she was doing, her body was doing to compensate for the lack of that muscle. And she had gotten tied up in knots. I mean, her body in the compensating for what was missing and what she wanted. The tightness is visible. And so we just walked through some breathing exercises and some body awareness exercises. And we just like pulled out at a couple strings about the things that she had come to believe were true, that she had lost certain things, and the way that she was judging herself and her voice and her future. And we just tweezed those things out and let them go. And I gave her some new skills. And the freedom that came from that was palpable. The hope that she had that, in fact, she can speak freely again. It's just a transition experience for her. And that was just in 1 hour together.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. And what can people expect when they work with you directly?
What can they expect? I'm all for, I want you to experience falling in love with yourself and with your life and with your way of being, and to celebrate that and to have practical skills to live your day-to-day life with greater freedom and access to that power that you have available to you that you haven't even experienced yet. And it's not necessarily about emotional hype either. It's about nuance, and it's about acceptance, and it's about integration. It's about reducing the noise and getting to the truth and amplifying the signal, and doing that without defense or offense, but just with truth. And that level of integrity is what you can expect. That expectation, not as in, I expect you to do this or that, but just to hold that, to hold the glow. What does your glow look and feel like? And to be able to live into that.
And if someone wants to learn more and get in touch with you, how can they do that, Sheila?
Well, I am sure that we're going to have a QR code somewhere around here. And love at soulpowernation.com is a great place to send me an email and get in touch. And I'll be honest, Shawna, right now, there's still some moving parts as we are having this interview. So I would send them to social media, but I think the QR code or the link that we're going to have in the notes with this will be the best place, because the names may change, because the Golden Crone may or may not show up in the search engine, but we will definitely have a way for you to find us.
Very good. What has changed in your life since you joined the radical company that you did not expect?
Well, there's actually this thing that's really easy to point to, because I've been in transition. If that wasn't apparent, I've been in major transition for the last 5 years, and I'm rebuilding my life, and I never would have imagined that would mean moving from my survival circumstances to living on almost 2 acres of former farmland in central Illinois, in the home that was my childhood home. And I never would have imagined life would bring that full circle. and the way that I'm being provided for to have this space in a time when the world is so chaotic, to have this sanctuary, it's one of those miracle things.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really,
Wow.
truly is. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And if someone was considering the Radiverse, what would you tell them about your experience?
It is a great way to see possibilities that you haven't imagined before, and to not have to figure it all out by yourself. And the people, if there's something that I've heard for decades and I've understood it, but I understand it differently now, the people that you surround yourself with are the people that you become. And so this circumstance that I see in my life, it's like, I don't know that I would have been open to this, to thinking this big. Because for right now, where I am in my life, this is big. And I know it's a step to what's coming next. And that becomes possible because of the people that I'm in relationship with. So.
Sheila Baker, thank you so much for your time here today on Radical TV.
Thank you. Thank you, Shawna. I'm glad to have been here with you.